honest, the information one MS nurse gave me, she told me that if I got a tiny little cut, that might make me relapse again. That if I slept in the bed with my dog, which I've been doing for 12 plus years, that I would get ill and I could relapse.
Kat, have you got Apple headphones in?
Yeah, why?
I think they can give you a relapse.
Oh.
Hot new content from Shift.ms. Do all MSers think the same? Early diagnosis. 5 people with multiple sclerosis get together to share their opinions and experiences living with MS. Let's go. I'm satisfied with how long it took for me to be diagnosed.
Boom, straight off the mark, straight
Yeah,
there.
easy.
Wow.
Decisions.
Ooh.
The suspense is killing me.
Hey, Rumi.
Hi, I'm Kat. I'm 32 years old. I live in, I'll say Kettering, and I was diagnosed 2.5 years ago. I was told multiple times that it was in my head, that it was my mental health. They even told me that I'd had a nervous breakdown. You know, I'd had this really bad relapse and I was wetting myself and I couldn't see, and I was told that I wasn't helping myself because I refused antidepressants. Over the years, there's just been so many neurological problems. Like I say, I can trace it back to being a teenager, and I was diagnosed at 28, and yeah, I mean, it was just missed. And I do put that down to being female and down to the way I look as well. You know, I was a trained athlete. On paper, everything was perfect, and they were just literally like, "You're making it up. There's nothing wrong with you." And I was just sort of like, well, I kind of know that I'm not, but when you have enough medical professionals telling you that it's nothing, you believe it.
Do you think if you said anything about MS back then, do you think that would have changed anything, or do you think they still would have thought it was kind of in your head?
Possibly, but the thing was, it was like it would come up in when, you know, I like to research things, I like to understand things. So, you know, it did come up a couple of times, but I thought, well, you know, MS is serious, so, and it can't be that. So I just sort of skimmed over it, and again, it was just so much blame on myself. I just blamed myself for everything. So it was so nice to actually be told, you know what, you've got loads of lesions all over your brain and you're not imagining this. And it was just like, oh, I told you.
Hello, my name's Heather. I am 32 years old. I live in Kent in the UK, and I was diagnosed 7 years ago in 2014. I think it is hard to get taken seriously because I've not had the journey before that Kat has had. It definitely wasn't that long, but I remember when I started getting loads of symptoms, everything was looked at individually.
Yeah.
So nothing was put together. So I had the dizziness, so that was an inner ear infection. Then I had all the pins and needles and numbness. So that meant I might have a trapped nerve, or maybe I'd hurt my neck. And I got the mental health as well. So at one point I had about 12 symptoms. I hadn't been out in about 8 weeks. I was starting to get a little bit stressed. And then she was like, I think you're stressed and that's what's causing it. And I did say to one of the doctors once that I think it is MS. And straight away they were like, no, it won't be MS because you have symptoms on both sides. And They said that because my numbness was on both sides, it wasn't MS because that would just be on one side. And then the second time, a doctor actually said to me, what do you think it is? And I remember being too embarrassed to say that I think it is MS. It was the worst time because you just feel so on your own. You don't know where to go because no one is listening to you. And my diagnosis took about 6 months, but it was only that quick. It seemed like ages at the time because I ended up paying to see a neurologist because I was so convinced it was MS, and within 5 minutes of seeing me he was like, yeah, that probably is what you're looking at.
Wow.
When you said you had 12 symptoms, was that all at the same time?
Yeah, it was a bad summer. It was a very bad summer. That's why it was so bad, because no doctors would take any notice. Where do you go if the health professionals don't listen to you? Like, what do you do?
Hi, I'm Maytee. I'm 44 years old. I live in Florida in the United States, and I was diagnosed with MS 6 years ago.
You see, in my case, I have a very different story. I didn't have to wait a long time trying to figure out what was happening with me because nothing was happening. I just had a sudden MS attack. I got paralyzed. So it was completely out of the blue, and I didn't know what was happening at that particular moment. It took only 48 hours to be diagnosed. The hospital Friday, and by Sunday, they told me that I had multiple sclerosis after, having a lot of tests done. I chose that. I totally agree with being satisfied the way I was diagnosed, because it was, right away.
Hi, I'm Roxy. I live in London, England. I'm 33 years old and I was diagnosed 8 years ago. Mine was a horrible journey. I woke up at age of 18, completely blind in my right eye, double vision in my left. I was home alone, which was even scarier. I eventually was rushed to the hospital and they'd done a lot of testing for like weeks on end. And they diagnosed me with lupus, because they said to me that someone that's brown with black heritage doesn't have MS, wouldn't present with MS. And they did MRIs, but they only ever MRI'd my brain. So for years, I was living with what was lupus, but actually my body was dealing with MS. It was only when I had a full freak out, where I couldn't get on public transport, and I still can't to this day, where I'd pass out just randomly, did they decide to then do an MRI on my actual spine. And that's where they realized on my spine there was a number of lesions, but they had never ever done an MRI on my spine. So for 8 years I was living with lupus and I was just getting more and more disabled. So my walking now is not as great as it could have been if they actually took in the very basic MS symptoms I was presenting.
Yeah.
That's crazy that they would kind of say that about with Caribbean heritage.
Yeah. Do you know what's crazy, Dave? There was 12 neurologists in the room. So I kept going to a room with multiple neurologists, and I'd be the special patient that they present to people and be like, what do you think she has? So it wasn't one neurologist, it was multiple. And that's the craziest thing about it for me.
In the United States, people of color are actually the ethnicity that has the highest level of MS. So when I heard that, I couldn't believe they said something like that.
Hi, I'm Dave. I live in Chippenham in Wiltshire. I was diagnosed 6 years ago and I'm 34. My MS story compared to all of yours is totally different. I feel quite embarrassed to say how well I was treated and how quick it was. So I went numb in my right arm, and it probably waited about 4 months, and then it spread from my right arm to my whole body eventually. And then I went to I phoned at the doctor. And so she had me in, and that day she sent me to the hospital. I stayed there and had a blood test that day. The next day I had a full MRI. And as soon as I said, my uncle's got MS, is it anything to do with that? He was like, yeah, it's everything to do with that. So from saying I've got a symptom to actually being officially diagnosed, I think less than a month.
Googling is bad right after diagnosis.
I've got so much to say about all of these things.
Oh wait, bad? No, wait. Yeah, there you go. I mean, when I got diagnosed, I Googled it and I thought I was going to die 3 days later.
I don't agree with Googling it. Like you said, Dave, it goes down a rabbit hole of just negativity. And I don't think all our journeys are the same at all. And they will never take the same path. I felt finding a community of people to actually speak to individuals was way more worthwhile than sitting there and building up my own anxiety, Googling random things and taking it from a certain perspective. So I advocate for them to find a buddy or a friend or a community of MSers to talk to and see the wider range of what MS can be, and not just a dun dun dun, this is it. Because like you, I saw almost a death sentence, and it's not.
Yeah, that is one of the first things I would recommend, and I found so much comfort in finding other people with MS and sort of building relationships. But equally, I like to understand things, and I think that's like with my line of work, I don't know, I just like to be kind of more real about things. But when people come to me and say when they've first been diagnosed, I don't say stay away from Google. Like, I see that a lot, and it kind of annoys me because I don't think your single neurologist actually will provide the information to help you understand the illness. I mean, I know mine didn't at all. I learned about MS myself from my own research.
No, I agree with you on that level, but I just find that like when I've spoken to a lot of people in my MS journey, a lot of them have felt so emotional after being diagnosed that I'd never say to them in that place. I do say down the road when you've kind of gone through a grieving period and you kind of understand and you've taken that time to deal with your emotions, absolutely. But as a first point of call, especially with the connection between depression and MS.
Yeah, because that's why I've got to kind of disagree, because I came across all of the horror stories as well, and there was definitely a couple of times where I thought, this is it, I'll be lucky to still be alive in a couple of months. But I think for me, just because I was completely expecting the diagnosis before I actually got it, so I'd kind of started to come to terms with it a little bit already. And I'm someone that likes to know all about something as well. So I think for me, it was a way of also feeling a little bit more in control, because my neurologist didn't give me much information either. It was very much like, okay, you go away now and your nurse will contact you and she'll talk about the different like therapies and drugs. But I don't like someone to be like, we think this is best for you, and that's it. So for me, like research everything and be like, yes, I think this is the right one for me. I'll still see what they say, but it just made me feel like a lot more empowered at that time.
I'm the opposite. I want someone to say, do this and do that and take it.
To be honest, the information one MS nurse gave me, she told me that if I got a tiny little cut, that might make me relapse again. That if I slept in the bed with my dog, which I've been doing for 12 plus years, that I would get ill and I could relapse. She told me that if I went on a plane, I would get ill and relapse. So I swear to God, I didn't touch my dog for about 2 months. And I washed my hands to the point that they were literally red raw because I was so terrified about how ill I felt. And I was like, I don't want this to happen again. Like, I don't want this to carry on. So that was information that a nurse had given me, when actually, when I used, the internet and Google and actually learned about the illness, I was like, what she's told me that is not true, like at all. Like, why has she said that to me? So actually, it helped me in a positive way to use Google.
Katt, have you got Apple headphones in?
Yeah, why?
I think they can give you a relapse.
Oh, honestly.
I'm so sorry to hear all this. To me, this is nonsense. I never in my life heard anything like this. I guess I was fortunate enough to land on the hands of an MS specialist from day one, and I was guided, the right way. I did not Google too much, maybe because I already had read or heard what I needed to from the professionals. So I learned early in my journey that if you're gonna Google, and just go to a reliable source.
People have treated me differently since my diagnosis. This is a close one. I love this game.
Ooh, controversial.
Yeah.
Oh, where have I gone? Why have I gone over there?
I saw you were in with me, and then I must have farted or something in. I'm leaving this room. I see it massively with me, to be fair. But in defense to everyone, I am in a wheelchair and I can't walk. So it's very noticeable that I can't do everything that I used to be able to do. Maybe not so much treat me differently since got MS, but since deteriorating, since getting secondary progressive MS, I suppose that's kind of where I get treated a lot differently, kind of 10 years ago when I could walk.
Right, me too. The first 3 years after I was diagnosed, I was able to walk without walking aids or nothing, so people could not tell. But then after the third year, I started to deteriorate physically. So I have seen that I get treated maybe a little bit. It's not a big change, but people are a little more kind, if you will.
I wouldn't say with me it's been massive, but then if you see me, like, I don't have any kind of like obvious outward signs. Because if I'm having a super bad day, then you just don't see me, I'm in bed. But I think overall, the people that knew me well before haven't really treated me differently. But I think it's more the people that I was kind of friends with, but not like really close friends with, because some of them definitely sort of dispersed a little bit. Really, it was more kind of an awkward, like they didn't really quite know what to do with me now, if you know what I mean. Like they didn't kind of know how to treat me. So there was kind of that awkward, like, oh, that's not good. And then they just kind of filtered away a little bit. But apart from those people, I think most people have treated me the same overall.
I wish people would treat me differently because I always describe myself as like an adapted human. As the years have gone on, I've adapted to every single thing that's like every relapse and everything that's happened. Mm-hmm. And obviously with my diagnosis, and everyone was like, oh, you know, but you've had MS like your whole life. So, and you're doing really well, because I'd obviously achieved quite a lot in between all these relapses I was having. But obviously what people don't seem to understand is that the level of my disability, even in comparison to a year ago or 2 years ago, is significantly more. But because I look the same and I'm still very good at kind of being normal Kat, they're just kind of like, oh, she's fine. Like, you know, she's dealing with her MS really well. She's obviously not that poorly. Like, you know, mm-hmm. I can still walk, you know, I train. And like, yeah, like I say, I've become an expert in masking all the things that are going on with me. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that.
Definitely.
For me, it's a multi-layered facet. Like, people treat me differently, but it's not necessarily always negative. Sometimes it can be quite positive. MS has been a very weird thing for me. The people closest to me, absolutely, because I done fashion. I was a fashion stylist for years, and I used to run around, pick up clothes, do like really intense days. And they can see the difference in me. Absolutely. Sometimes just my mental health, my physical health. I'm using mobility aids. And I kind of use style as a defense with my mobility aids, but I still deal with the general public idea of what disability looks like and how I should be presented. Is she disabled enough to be in this parking space?
Oh, God.
Do you really need that disability aid?
Oh, yeah.
That kind of situation for me. You're too pretty to be disabled. Yeah. Nice yes. one. I'm sure everyone gets that. Are you sure you're too young? You're too pretty? Can you be cool and disabled? And I literally love to advocate that we can be beautiful. We are all gorgeous on this call. We can be fashionable and still be disabled. But then on my social media side, where I decide to embrace myself, the wider world's treatment of me has been kind of quite beautiful, actually, and has helped me massively in my MS journey to empower myself. And the opportunities I've had from opening up and making my MS visible to the wider world have been kind of incredible, and people have treated me with so much respect and such beauty. So it's a weird double-edged sword where friends have just disappeared. People that said they were friends have just disappeared because now you're a burden, you don't turn up, and it's their birthday but you can't go tonight because you're tired, but you weren't tired yesterday when you said you was coming. Those situations arise. And then obviously family members that love you kind of take over situations as well, where like they see you struggling, instead of letting you try, they'll go, I'll just do that for you. And you kind of can get frustrated because you kind of still want to do as much as you can for yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to echo what you said about they treat you better or different in a good way. When I was able-bodied, I did strongman. Now I still do strongman, but I do it sat down. You know, no one cared when I was doing it stood up, but the world go crazy when you pull a truck in a wheelchair. And it's like, that's how you get treated a bit differently. And my wife's a really good one. She treats me differently when I need it, but then when I don't need it, she doesn't. So like, if we're in the living room and I want her to get something from the other side because I'm struggling on that day, then she'll get up and get it. But she'll know as well when I'm just being lazy, and she'll tell me to get it myself. I was like, I can't walk though. She's like, fucking crawl then. So I think it's having that, you know, that being treated differently when you need it.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching this video.
If you've enjoyed this, please like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more episodes of Do All MSers Think the Same?
Also, you guys can follow us on social media at the description below.
And let us know in the comments of what topics or themes you would like to see next.